Hello, today I'm going to talk about different types of absorb type activities and how to make them effective. Creating this PowerPoint presentation, I didn't necessarily follow Mayer's 12 principles of multimedia design because I was trying to take a different angle and to focus on how to make these activities effective, not necessarily demonstrate my understanding of 12 principles of multimedia design. So first I'm going to talk about different types, and then I'm going to talk about what I discovered to myself, um, how to make them effective. So I'll start with presentations. We use presentations a lot in the classroom, so that's not new, that we can use slideshow presentations, argument presentations, we can show information films, we can show dramas, and we can act out dramas, as well as we can show different type of discussions to our students to present new material or to um, present a different angle to the material. My question was how to make them effective. And first of all, those 12 principles of multimedia learning were definitely a discovery for me. So if I am to create a PowerPoint presentation for e-learners, I'll definitely try to incorporate as many as possible. This time I didn't do that, but I found a great PowerPoint presentation on YouTube that follows all those 12 principles. So again, I'm violating one of the principles here, talking about this presentation ahead of showing it, but the presentation has a voice of its own, so I'm going to talk about it before and then show just a couple minutes of it, so you can see that it definitely includes all these 12 principles of multimedia learning.
Doctors, nurses, and public health professionals from across the globe are responding to climate change, with the World Health Organization establishing it as one of the top priorities for the coming decade. To inform this response, the medical journal The Lancet engages experts from every discipline in order to better understand the broad implications of climate change, providing a diagnosis and a prescription for an issue which could undermine the last 50.
Okay, so it definitely includes or incorporates all these 12 principles of multimedia learning. I also like the idea of linking our presentation to related resources. We all do that when we present our scholarly work. We have the list of works cited or related readings, so we can certainly do the same thing for our students. I like the idea of creating group presentations. Again, I do that in my classroom when my students create iMovies together, and they also create instructional materials. So they would read a chapter in the book, and then they would create Prezi or PowerPoint presentation to show the understanding and teach this particular unit to the class. So students can also collaborate on that. They can each create a particular slide and then put them together into the presentation. So our distant learning students can do the same kind of thing. And then the great idea was to borrow. Again, we can certainly create dramas, we can act them out, but there's no need for that because not always there is a need for that, because there is a lot of stuff on YouTube that we can use, as well as in TED Talks, NPR News. So we can certainly find great discussions. We can certainly find examples like acted out interviews that we can create for our scenario, to analyze the scenario and build a learning activity. There are plenty of informational films that we can find and incorporate for our e-learners. Next, I'm going to talk about demonstrations. So there are certain types of activities when it's better to use the demonstration. When we are talking about software demonstration, scenario demonstrations, I found it very useful, and physical demonstrations when we need to teach a particular skill. Again, so this is a picture of a tennis player. My son plays tennis. I love tennis. So if we need to teach a particular move in tennis, demonstration is the best way to teach. So we can certainly do that for our distant learners as well. So record the move and then show it. And there are many videos on YouTube that are talking about like eHow, how to apply makeup, how to use PowerPoint to create a slideshow, and so on and so forth. So there are many how-to videos, and there are examples of demonstrations. So my question was how to make them effective. I like the idea of previewing the action. If we are learning a particular action, it's good to use close up and preview the action, or stop and then show an individual action closer. Definitely important to keep the demonstration short. So for this particular assignment, I was searching for demonstrations how to capture, how to do the screen capture, and I was focusing on the ones that they were short. If the demonstration was long, that didn't interest me, because certainly we don't want to learn all the ins and outs of that. We just want to learn the gist of it. So the demonstration should be short. Let the learners control the demonstration, so they can stop, they can start from the beginning, they can move forward if they learn, they know a particular part of the demonstration, so they can skip forward and go backward. I like the idea of let learners follow along, like in the Cook Show. So if you want to follow us, please do the same kind of thing. We can certainly ask our students to do that to make demonstration more meaningful. Stories. We use stories a lot. Again, in our classroom, there are all kinds of stories: hero stories, love stories, disaster stories, tragedies, discovery stories. Example is a type of a story. So, how do we make them effective in e-learning? With the same idea with a presentation, we want to keep our story short, clear, focused, and credible. We want to choose a story with a clear moral. We want to keep it emotional, and we want to include the basic elements of storytelling. And again, I love this picture. I use it with my students when I teach them narrative writing. So the stories that we tell to our students should also follow the same structure. So to start with an exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. So certainly something to keep in mind if we want to make our stories effective. Field trips. Again, we take our students on field trips. That's not a new idea. What was new for me is that we can take our students on virtual field trips, and there are different recordings of virtual museums and virtual guided tours. So that was a discovery for me. So again, the question was how to make them effective. I like the idea of creating guided tours and research activities. So not necessarily asking the students to go to a physical museum or to attend a virtual museum, and ask our students to pay attention to certain things, to find particular objects, to observe particular patterns, which is essential to a successful field trips. Our students need to have an assignment. But I also liked of sort of changing and catering the tour to a particular group of students and to a particular assignment. An example of a physical guided tour would be asking a tour guide to create a customized tour and to take students to particular exhibits. Students can do the same thing in virtual museums. And I also like to combining field trips with other activities, going to a museum, again to a physical museum or to a virtual museum to expand on reading, on after watching a particular documentary, or after doing some other types of activities. And certainly readings. Readings are not new. Readings have been around forever. We can assign our students to read individual documents. We can give our students libraries of documents. And we can certainly include search engines and ask students to use particular search engines to do their research for the most part. So how to make them effective in e-learning? Definitely comment and discuss readings. Our students can do the same in a virtual classroom. They can discuss the readings in a discussion group. They can edit and annotate and then share their edits and annotations with an instructor or with another group of students. We can link readings to related resources, to documentaries, videos, to other readings. Wikipedia page is a good example of that. So when we read about a particular topic, if we want to find more information about different aspects of this topic, we can find links to specific resources. And what I like the most is providing different versions of readings. So the books are not necessarily the only option. Our students can use ebooks if it's more convenient, and they can certainly use audiobooks. I use audiobooks a lot, so if you can find an audio version of a textbook, I would definitely recommend it to students who don't have time, who are always on the go, and who just like audio and learn better from audio recordings. So thank you very much. That's my presentation.